What's happening, guys? This is RRPG here, and I'm here to present another 2 cents video on the 2 cents block for you all. I'm glad to be here with presenting this video to you all because this piece of news has got me very excited. How many of you have played the Dissidia Final Fantasy games on the PSP? I know I have, as I actually reviewed both Dissidia and Dissidia 012 in 2009 and 2011 respectively. The first one was great for what it was, but the next game actually improved upon everything that I personally didn't enjoy. If you have a PSP or a PlayStation Vita, I give you my full blessing to try those games out, as they are really not that bad. Speaking of Dissidia though, there is a brand new game that is coming out to arcades later this year in Japan only, and this was something that Square-Enix presented the first trailer of the next Dissidia game that showcased the gameplay and the characters that were present. All the stuff in the trailer was all from the in-game engine, and the character models actually looked really good for the likes of Warrior of Light, Cloud Strife, and Tara Branford to name a few. The level layout from the first Final Fantasy was the stage that was present, and for a game that presents itself in a modern HD setting, it can use some more work. For what it is though, the trailer got me hyped to play it. However, my interest was piqued even higher when it was announced today as to who the main developer is for the arcade game. Team Ninja. Yeah, the developer behind Dead or Alive and the Modern Ninja Gaiden series is the main developer for the next Dissidia game, and I am very excited about this for many reasons, mind you. Before I get on with my points, I want to share some of the stuff that was confirmed in relation to this topic. This report was brought about via Siliconera as they managed to scoop up this closed conference from Dengeki Online. Square-Enix announced that Tecmo Koei's own subsidiary, Team Ninja, will indeed develop the next Dissidia game for the arcades, and it will actually be a reboot to the series and not a sequel, which gamers and critics have begged for in quite a while. Sony Computer Entertainment's own president, Atsushi Morita, has come out to say that the arcade game and machines will utilize the PlayStation 4's core system of technology. I'm guessing that the arcade machine is going to operate and act very similar to the PlayStation 4 architecture so that it'll look great and run smoothly for this type of experience, like trying to get a game of that caliber to run at 60 frames per second. Plus, this led to speculation that a PlayStation 4 version may be very well possible for a release in the future, as Morita did not dismiss the possibility entirely. However, he wished for people to enjoy the game in Japanese arcades for at least 1 year, so for a Japanese game that is an arcade exclusive for at least 1 year, in my mind, that actually makes sense. Here's some pictures of what the arcade cabinet will look like, and the first 6 characters that they showcased. Those characters are Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy 1, Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy 7, Onion Knight from Final Fantasy 3, Lightning from Final Fantasy 13, Tara Branford from Final Fantasy 6, and Y'shtola from Final Fantasy 14. Ramza Beowulf from Final Fantasy Tactics has also been confirmed to be a playable character in the game. And that really took me by surprise, and it even gets better as the final roster is planning to have at least 50 plus characters. So it looks like that main installment and spin-off characters will be in the game, as that'll make the biggest roster in the series history, as the biggest we have seen in the last game had about 31 characters overall. And a new trailer was also showcased, but didn't really show anything new except for another level that appears at the end. Midgar from Final Fantasy VII, and it looks sick in HD. Square-Enix, you break my balls after what happened at the PlayStation Experience. You say that an HD remake to Final Fantasy VII is not possible, but Team Ninja is kicking your ass and making you fools. Midgar in this new Dissidia game looks phenomenal! As you can see, a ton of bombs were dropped in relation to this announcement, and people like me who played the last 2 games are entitled to be pretty pumped for it. Maximilian Dude on YouTube is pretty pumped for it as well. However, that's not what this video is all about, as I want to deliver my thoughts and predictions as to what could possibly occur for the game in both arcades and what could possibly be in the PlayStation 4 release. First of all, having Team Ninja being the main developer was a very wise choice. Why? Because they are a subsidiary from a third-party publisher that works on anything even from a first-party or another third-party company. Most of all, they are truly experienced in fighting games, as them working the new Dissidia Final Fantasy will actually help make the game become more of a fighting game instead of a one-on-one action RPG. That was my main beef with the Dissidia games in the past, as they felt more like action RPGs and not a fighting game, because you have brave attacks to build up in order to do HP attacks to secure damage on your opponents. Plus, Square-Enix have not really done any fighting games since back in 1999 with Ehrgeiz on the PlayStation, as it borrowed more from Power Stone with the arena-based fighters. Team Ninja can help bring in more with doing more technical moves to unleash very effective combos for single characters and tag moves since the game is a 3-on-3 fighter. Dead or Alive had very fluid and fast-paced combos based on the character movesets, and them doing that for a Dissidia Final Fantasy game, since the combat is very heavy and fast-paced, would be a vast improvement to the technical side of the game design. Another thing to take into account is that Team Ninja has an outstanding resume with developing high-quality character models, even with the most advanced limitations, and what they showcased for the 6 playable characters look really great even if it was on a console. I just hope that Team Ninja does not go heavy with fan service for the game, but having a character like Tifa in this new game will probably be up their alley, as the developer is infamous for jiggle physics and panty shots. Oh boy. Then again, Team Ninja has created so many costumes for their own characters, so I don't think it's impossible for them to do that for the Final Fantasy characters. But I can only imagine if they made ones that have flair from the different universes that the series is famous for. Team Ninja being the main developer has huge potential to actually make this new game a big improvement over the others, as well as a newcomer for fighting game tournaments like EVO of all events. The second and last thing I want to talk about is the possibilities of what could be in the console release. Since the PlayStation 4 is a definitive possibility to be on the consoles, I can't see it being a far-fetched reality if the game also got a port on the Xbox One, because of both systems having similar architecture to port over. But seeing as how Sony is lacking exclusives for their current generation console, then they need all of them that they can get. Getting back to the console release though, Square-Enix and Team Ninja would need to do more for that version instead of it being a direct port from the arcade, because that would be very bad if that were to happen. However, I have faith that they would want to do more for a console release, like having a story mode that is akin to Dead or Alive 5, or maybe something like what we have seen with the past Dissidia games, but with more focus on a select number of characters that would be important to the plot. Another element would be the possibility of having a mode where you can grow your character because of the growth system in JRPGs that has been there in the series since its conception. But I think doing that in a separate mode that played out more like a dungeon crawler or something close to that can actually work. A bigger thing they would need to include is having online gameplay with a ranking system, if both the publisher and developer actually want to do this right to make it a bigger success than its predecessors. As for characters they could put in, I would say that most of the recent characters from Final Fantasy IV all the way to now would make more sense because of them having been established in the franchise, like Locke and Shadow from Final Fantasy VI, Vincent and Yuffie from Final Fantasy VII, Rinoa and Cypher from Final Fantasy VIII, Vivi, Garnet, and Steiner from Final Fantasy IX, Auron and Riku from Final Fantasy X, Ash and Balthier from Final Fantasy XII, Snow and Noelle from Final Fantasy XIII, and Noctis from Final Fantasy XV, if they wanted to do something like that with putting in newer characters we haven't seen. Granted, all of them are on the hero side, but antagonists like the remnants of Sephiroth from Advent Children, Seymour Guado from Final Fantasy X, and Gaius from Final Fantasy XIII too are also possible candidates. A shop to buy items, weapons, and armor should also be a must if they wanted to keep that past element in the newer one. And I think it would be one hell of a risk if Team Ninja actually created weapons that fit the characters with their weapon of choice. I mean, come on! Who here would love to see Cloud have the Ultimo weapon in his hand throughout the whole time fighting opponents instead of just having it active during EX mode? That would show evolution right there to get past the limitations of having different shapes and sizes of weapons. For newer stages, how about having Balam Garden from Final Fantasy VIII, the World of Terra in Final Fantasy IX, or even the Temple of Bavel in Final Fantasy X? I know that places like those could actually work instead of just areas where the final showdowns take place in every Final Fantasy game. From what I talked about, the possibilities on this newer entry is endless, as this could be a game where Square-Enix can really break into the fighting game genre that didn't quite catch the mark with the PSP titles. If anything, they need to make sure that this game comes over to the Western market. And seeing how Team Ninja's games do make it over to the West, then I see this game getting the same treatment for an international release. But Square-Enix better not give us the middle finger once more with not bringing something that is awesome to Western shores, because that would also be a detriment to how out of touch they have been with the gaming industry, the gaming community, and their longtime fans. I'm saying this because we still have not received a Western release for some other games like Dragon Quest X, and doing more BS like they have with some of their other more recent stuff has pissed off so many people. If they take this initiative and make a great fighting game series under this reboot, I would imagine they will have the potential to rival the likes of the more popular games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Soul Calibur, Killer Instinct, BlazBlue, Guilty Gear, Smash Brothers, and many others that have become immensely popular in fighting game tournaments right now. Make it right, Square Enix. You are literally sitting on a goldmine with fighting game enthusiasts that have a strong habit of playing very fast-paced and competitive fighters. Don't let us down. Alright guys, that's all I have to say on this topic, so I want to hear your 2 cents on this matter. Are you hyped for this new game? Are there certain features you want to see in it, or is there something about the game that doesn't quite interest you? Be sure to rate this video as well as leaving your positive and negative feedback down in the comments. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button underneath that video, as more support from you guys will mean that more content is coming from me in the future that you won't find anywhere else. Until next time, this is Double RPG signing off by saying Godspeed and game on, gamers. Have a good one.